Pope Francis has arrived in Ecuador, in his first visit since becoming Pope to the Spanish-speaking part of South America, bringing a message of solidarity with the poor in the region, while trying to rally his church amid dwindling numbers. Francis, history's first South American leader of the Catholic Church, arrived in the capital Quito at 1940 GMT on Sunday for a week-long tour of the continent, which also includes stops in Bolivia and Paraguay. Crowds had begun gathering on Sunday morning along the route from the airport to the papal nuncio's residence, where Francis will be staying. The Pope will switch from a car to a bubble-windowed popemobile for the last few kilometers of the trip. More than 1 million Roman Catholics are expected at Mass in Quito on Tuesday. Francis, already seen by many as the Pope of the Poor, chose to visit Ecuador, Bolivia, and Paraguay specifically because they are among the poorest and most marginal nations of a region that claims 40% of the world's Catholics. He is skipping his homeland of Argentina, at least partly to avoid papal entanglement in this year's presidential election. Francis had previously visited the Portuguese-speaking Brazil in 2013. Falling world prices for oil and minerals in Ecuador threaten to fray the social safety net woven by President Rafael Correa, who has been buffeted for nearly a month by the most serious anti-government street protests of his more than 8 years in power. While in Ecuador, Francis will also be forced to confront a sex abuse scandal which has tainted the church, said Al Jazeera's Lucia Newman, reporting from Quito. Dr. James Hamilton, one of the sex abuse victims, told Newman that the church's punishment of pedophiles is an insult. Environmental concerns. Francis is also likely to raise environmental concerns with Correa and the leader of Bolivia, who have promoted mining and oil drilling in wilderness areas, given his recent encyclical on the need to protect nature and the poor who suffer most when it is exploited. In that document, Francis called for a new development model that rejects today's profit-at-all-cost mentality in favor of a Christian view of economic progress that respects human rights and safeguards the environment. In a video message on the eve of his departure, Francis said he wanted to bring a message of hope and joy to all, especially the neediest, the elderly, the sick, those in prison and the poor and all those who are victims of this throwaway culture. Francis' other stops will include a violent Bolivian prison, a flood-prone Paraguayan shanty town and a meeting with Bolivian rubbish pickers, the sort of people he ministered to in the slums of Buenos Aires as Archbishop. Crowds are expected to be huge. While the countries themselves are tiny compared to regional powerhouses like Brazil and Argentina, they are fervently Catholic. 79% of the population is Catholic in Ecuador, 77% in Bolivia, and 89% in Paraguay, according to the Pew Research Center.